You're listening to the Precision Shooting Podcast, discussing all aspects of precision and long-range rifle shooting. This episode is brought to you by STS Steel Targets, premium shooting targets and accessories. And now, over to your hosts.
Oh, well, hello and welcome to the Precision Shooting Podcast. My name is Rusty and this is episode number 81, I think, if I've got that right.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
If not, we'll just make it 81. Gentlemen, we've got Greg and Andrew in the room. How are you guys?
Good.
Yeah, good. Actually, just for new listeners of the show, perhaps to clarify the voices you hear, Andrew.
That's me.
Yep, and the other one.
Hello there.
That's Greg.
Greg with the golden tonsils.
That's exactly right, the man with the golden tonsils. Greg, speaking of golden tonsils, how is Hunting HQ going?
Yeah, really good. Having a ball. Just talking about hunting and camping gear in general. I guess we just do what we do in terms of the Simo and the Rum Baron. So we're pretty keen hunters and get out quite a bit. So it's it's nice to talk about the hunting side of things. And leave the shooting side of things on this one. So we're having a ball and it's come along really well.
Yeah, nicely done. Speaking of podcasts, I don't know if I've told you, gentlemen, I'm starting another podcast. I'm actually starting two, maybe.
Why stop at one?
Why stop at one? But anyway, the other one, the first one that's going to probably make its way out is not quite yet up, but is not really shooting related either. It is
that's cool.
Generally other stuff, although shooting will certainly play a role because I don't do really much else outside of shooting. So the guy I'm chatting with is Dave, who is from Berger, who's been on this podcast a couple of times now, and we shot the Victorian comp together. We worked out we like similar music and we like to drink beer, so we've done a beer, music, guns, Simpsons, a bunch of other stuff on that podcast. So anyway, we'll put some news out about that. We're still deciding on a name at present. The current working title is 2 Beers, 1 Chat, which may be a slight reference to something else, not worth mentioning. But those who know will know, and we'll leave it at that. Definitely don't Google it.
I'm going to Google that later.
Let's get the words right, but anyway, the phrase is the right idea. Very good. And how have your couple of weeks been, gentlemen?
Yeah, hot.
They have been, haven't they?
Yeah.
Very hot.
Except today when it was cold and raining, but yeah.
Still managed to retain some warmth, though. It's been quite humid.
It has been. But
yesterday was 43, and today is about 25.
Yeah, thereabouts, yeah.
Yeah, bit of a drop.
So, no, haven't done any more shooting since our last recording, but I've certainly thought about shooting a lot.
Good.
Think about it right now, but no, it's been interesting sort of watching the sort of new releases from SHOT, I guess. Hasn't
that been a talking point?
Yeah, I mean, it's same every year. That's when everyone releases all their good gear, so.
Of course.
But, just work and more work, basically.
That's right. Greg, you been getting out after anything?
No, actually, I've been really quiet. I stuffed me back up. So,
right.
I've been doing the old 85-year-old shuffle around the house the last sort of week and a half. So, that's slowed me down considerably.
Right.
But I'm pretty mad keen to get out in the near future. I'm missing wandering through the hills in the evenings. So,
nice.
Hopefully this weekend, if I'm back to normal. That's the plan anyway.
Beautiful. Well, we will get into a bit of SHOT stuff, no doubt. But before we do, a couple of things to let our listeners know about. G'day to our Patreons who are watching on Patreon on the live stream. Greg's nearly got his thumb into that.
I need longer arms. There it is.
So, of course, always special mention to our patrons who go out of their way to support the show. And if you guys listening are that way inclined, you don't have to be. We'll still put the show on. Maybe you don't not in a position to do that, maybe don't like us enough, which is totally fair enough. It really helps a lot with the show, and you will hopefully shortly start noticing some improvements with some stuff around the show. So really appreciate those guys, and we do, when we can, live stream the show out to them as well, which is good. We have a giveaway to do, but prior to that, also want to let those listeners know that podcast is not always the best format for people to watch and listen to stuff. And for those who are not familiar with podcasting, well, one, you won't be listening to this, I suspect, or they might be listening to it on our website. We're going to start a YouTube channel, and we're going to put all our podcasts up there, really in a podcast format. They'll have some sort of visual that you can stare at for an hour. Probably not recommended, but there will be something there to be able to sort of, put your eyes on.
Semi-shooting related normally.
Yeah, probably. And that will actually start from the beginning. So we'll start uploading from episode 1 through to 81 eventually. So that'll take quite a bit of time, because to make videos for each one of them, being about an hour long, is going to take a little bit. But over the next, 6 months or so, we should catch up with the podcasts, with the videos of the podcast as well. So those who are listening, or if you know some people who really aren't in the podcast side of things, chances are they know about YouTube, and they can find us on there as well, which will be good. I've got another YouTube thing to talk about in a moment, but before we do that, we do have something to give away. Our STS sponsors have given us a couple of targets. I can't tell you what those targets are. I should go grab them. They're right there.
I would presume they're steel targets.
Yeah, you're spot on, mate. Do you want to let people know about STS targets, though?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I could probably jump in there. I know Sean he basically laser cuts steel targets for long-range shooting. He does them in a whole series of sizes, usually about 2 MOA at each given distance. He also does some sizes for, more metric for the mill fanboys. But yeah, basically caters for all types of shooting. He also has a lot of animal targets, so it just give you range, a bit of character. So yeah, I'd suggest jump on his site. He also does custom jobs as well. So if you have a specific need, if you're a club,
he loves custom jobs.
He loves them. He constantly tells us, doesn't he?
Always wanting more.
Yeah. So feel free. But yeah, so he's got a pretty
good
site.
You want an igloo, or you want like half a mountain, or anything? He'll do it.
Yeah, zombie.
Zombies.
He'll do it. Lots of zombies. So check out his site. He's got everything the long range shooter, or even just the standard shooter, needs to do. Some good practice, good quality practice.
So we've been given 2 targets. What size do you reckon they are, Andrew?
About 200 mil, maybe.
Yeah, probably a 200 and a 150 mil.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're going to give these away. We're going to give that 200 mil away to one of our Patreons, one of our Australian resident Patreons. So we can't ship these overseas. We can't afford to. They're too heavy. But if you are in Australia and you support her on Patreon, we're going to randomly give it out to someone on Patreon. So if you're thinking about joining up on Patreon, that might be a really good time to do it.
Chances are pretty good for a win.
Yeah, we got a few supporters, which we certainly appreciate. But the compared to what we're about to announce for the other one, you got a pretty good chance to win. What are we going to do for the other one, Greg or Andrew?
Well, I think Greg came up with the idea, so we'll let him unveil it.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe, Rusty, you could put a picture up, some sort of almost comical shooting-related picture, and just get the listeners to put a meme on it.
Right.
So meme it up, basically.
Meme it up.
And I reckon the one that cracks us up as a podcast team the most.
Okay, yep, good.
Gets the win.
What about we do this? So maybe I'll grab a couple of different images so guys can choose their meme, and we will chuck them up on Facebook, and you guys can throw some words on them. We might even have a crack ourselves, although we won't be eligible to win the prizes.
Yep.
Because we crack ourselves up the most. That's why.
Yeah.
It'd be sort of a given.
We're pretty funny.
Yeah, you're right.
But
and
Judged on belly laughs.
Well, what I think we'll do is make sure we don't look at them prior. So put them up on Facebook or message them to us on Facebook or email them through, anything like that, whatever method you can get to them. And we won't look at them in detail until the show. And on not the next show, but probably the one after. So we'll give it a little bit of time to get these ones done. And we'll put some links up that you can follow to where you can put your memes and all that sort of gear. But we will put them up and then we will reveal them on the show and see how much we laugh or don't.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
I saw. Can we do like a booby prize for the worst one?
Yeah, they get something with Greg's signature on it.
I was about to say a signed brew mug.
Maybe a brew mug if it's really bad. Otherwise, we'll find something. We've got a prize cupboard. We don't have a prize cupboard. I just wanted to say that. This is
Post-it note with my signature on it.
We will send you a post-it note with Greg's signature on it. That would be good. Greg's signature is actually worth a lot more than we're giving it credit for because it's got access to a lot of money in bank accounts.
Yeah, correct.
I forgot about that.
So it could be well worthwhile. Yeah. So anyway, we were going to give those a couple away. So stay tuned for them. We've already got people from Patreon trying to weasel their way into it. Well done, Tom. Appreciate the support. You could well played. Absolutely. So we're going to give these out over the next few weeks, and we will get ready to meme it up.
Sounds good. Always good to get a laugh.
Wonderful. All right. So a little cryptic message to those who live in Victoria. I'm going to be over there for the Wild Deer Expo at the beginning of March, which is in Myrtleford on the 3rd and 4th of March. Now, chances are I've got a new project going and I need to catch up with some people who have some guns, preferably a long-range type gun, and who are happy to talk about their gun while being filmed. All right. Now, they don't necessarily have to show their face, but they do need to talk about it, a little bit of an interview type thing with their gun and know the details and tell us all about their gun. That would be excellent. So if you are in probably Melbourne or between Myrtleford, Melbourne, Castlemaine, Bendigo, possibly out to Sale, anywhere in that area, and you can make some time available between the 5th and 10th of March, please drop me a message. We will be looking to film some stuff there for a new project. So I'm sure I'll bring everyone up to speed on what it is as soon as we launch, but just a heads up for those guys in Victoria, if you want to get, if you're happy to put your gun, get some footage of your gun and a little bit of information about it, that would be really, really good.
It's so secret we don't even know about it.
You're right. I just dropped that on you there. I might tell you about it later. I've only told one person about it so far, and that was me. So
that's 2 people then.
Yeah. How does that work? Anyway.
Tangent.
Tangent theta. Speaking of scopes, SHOT Show has been and gone.
Yeah, no, it obviously has wrapped up, I think, a day or 2 ago.
Friday US time. We are, Monday now? So a couple of days.
Yeah, so it's sort of interesting now to see when the new releases will actually filter their way through here. So
could be a while. What did you see? What was your favourite, Andrew? Actually, I reckon I know what your favourite's going to be, but anyway, we'll see. Yeah,
well, it's a big surprise, I guess. But no, finally we could actually sort of see the zero compromise optics scopes, which was, a friend of mine is the owner of the company, and I sort of haven't been able to talk about it for a long time, so finally I can talk about it.
Bonus.
Yeah, but they're finally released publicly, and they've got two models out, which both look really good. There's a 4-20 and a 5-27 scope, very much aimed at the top end of the market.
Look very nice.
Yeah, so it'll be a while, I think, before we see them here. But
okay.
Yeah, I think it's a, I wouldn't say a niche market, but it's a small and
Yeah, it's a
growing
top
market.
end.
Yeah,
Top end
they're
product.
hand built. There's no mass assembly line on these things, so obviously they will filter through slowly. But I think, hopefully we can see a couple in our hands, in the next sort of few months would be good.
Mm.
And hopefully not too far from then will be when we see them up for sale. So yeah, that was probably for me
Very always good to
The
have a new
highlight?
player on the
Mm.
on the scene.
Yeah, I mean the guys behind the company are not new to the optics
Yep.
field, but everybody's got significant experience at the top end. So
Yep.
yes, it's a new company, but they're not coming in blind. They're very experienced guys. So I'm pretty confident that we're going to see the top end of the market in
Yeah,
these
sweet.
scopes. So should be good.
Yeah. Greg, did you see anything
No,
particular?
look, I got to admit, I had a quick scan through. I saw some like mags and stuff like that, and
Yep.
a whole heap of AR stuff, AR-15 stuff, which is obviously not really in play. But I didn't really see anything that jumped out at me, so
Mhm, yep.
I'm sort of more keen to hear what you blokes have to say. Unfortunately,
Okay.
yeah, I was hoping for some gadgetry, like
Well, there is.
a new rangefinder or something along those lines, or any sort of release in the gadgetry side of things.
Well,
but
I did see there was a new rangefinder that I think it was Leica had
Oh, yeah.
released. Yeah, binos to 3,000 yards, I believe they said 3,000 yards.
Yeah.
meters.
Wow. Nice.
that's interesting.
Yeah, I'd hate to think what the price would be, but
Yeah, because
with
with
all
Leica, they tend to actually
Be Badco money, really.
reach the distance they
Yeah.
claim on the box. I know that's my experience with the 1600. I was actually tapping 1600 with it.
yeah, and I would imagine the optics on these things would be fantastic as well. So
Yeah.
but you get what you pay for. I
Mm.
did see, is it Athlon released a new model?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Other than that, I can't tell you offhand the details of it.
We did get asked when we were going to be reviewing the Athlon models, and
So
I said
any Athlon
when
distributors out there?
yeah, well, I said when we get our hands on one, that'd be great, and yeah. So anyway, we'll see. You'll see. I had a limited experience with Athlon. Have you ever used one, Andrew?
No, I haven't. No.
Greg? No.
No.
I had minor, but not with the nicer stuff. Only with the sort of cheaper stuff, and
Yeah.
the one that I remember particularly did show that it was cheaper. Yeah, unfortunately, but haven't played with the nicer gear.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but I would imagine the cheaper lines and the top end lines are really not related, other than the
No,
fact they've got
yeah.
the same name on them. They wouldn't be produced in the same facility or anything like that. I wouldn't think.
Wouldn't think so. No, spot
So,
on.
But I mean, no, there was a lot of interesting stuff there. For me, obviously the the Tikka 22.
Oh, yeah.
released.
And you're going to get one of them, aren't you?
I pre-ordered it a few weeks ago, actually.
Nicely done.
so-
When they were leaked.
Yeah,
Yep.
as soon as the leak arrived. So that'll be nice. What else was there? I mean, not that it was released at SHOT Show, but KRG have got their new
The Bravo.
Yeah, looks really
Yeah.
nice. So,
Looking through that. Obviously, the Sierra line that we talked about in the previous show, which is the high BC stuff, that was all sort of, not released but put out forward there. I mean, there is just so much stuff, and we tried to forward on as many things on our Facebook as we could that were relevant. Sure, there was lots more that we didn't know about, but
well, he's even Berger, the new Berger releases
Oh,
the
yeah,
extreme outer
Berger.
limits projectiles. I mean, there's some pretty impressive numbers there.
yeah, absolutely. And then they're doing factory ammo as well now.
Yeah, they are in
Yeah.
Lapua Brass. Obviously,
Yeah,
I think
because
they're all under the same banner now.
they're
so
owned by that.
yeah, that you'd
Ammo.
imagine to be pretty top end, price and performance wise.
Absolutely. There was the new Grayboe stock, the Ridgeback.
Yep.
Which looked pretty impressive, particularly for the price point it sort of sits at.
Yeah, I was originally, so before they released any information other than a few CAD drawings of it, I thought it might be in the same price point as the KRG Bravo, but it's not. It's substantially more expensive, but still not at the top end price wise. So
Okay.
Yep. Be substantially cheaper than a Macmillan A5 or a spec'd up Manners or anything like that. So.
And Howa launched their Bravo, Howa Bravo, which is a Howa and a Bravo stock chassis. Is that a chassis or a stock?
It's a bit of both, I guess.
Bit of a chock.
Or
Go on, try and say it.
sock. It's a shock.
It's a shock to the system.
But no, I mean it's a pretty. It's obviously it's a budget setup in that they've kept the cost as low as they can, and it is pretty low. But there's a CNC machine, aluminium core basically, which is where everything mounts up to, and then your plastic exterior. So I think it'll do a very good job.
Here's the Berger ones: 245 grain in the 30 cal, a 156 grain 6.5. Probably some other stuff. I can't see it.
I think it's a 329 grain 338 or something like that.
329, 338, and a 184 7mm. What have we got there, Greg? He's found some gadgetry. Yeah, very nice. MPA released, or the just prior released a couple of bits and pieces on their BA chassis. They've got the barricade, rotating barricade stop, and they also talked about a hybrid chassis as well. It's good to see the Lithgow 105 was represented there and favoured quite positively. That's always good.
Some of the new Manners offerings will look good. Tikka stuff, Tikka chassis, the mini chassis. So, and interestingly, the new Tikka Rimfire is the same footprint as their centerfire, the T3s and T3X. So
yeah, that's cool. The other thing on the Manners that I saw on display there is the Arca rail, the Area 419 Arca rail, which I definitely am keen on, really keen on. So yeah, anyway, I've been waiting for some sort of solution for an Arca rail for a Manners, and here we are. But that Tikka being in the same footprint as the centerfire rifle was a really good up.
Yeah, well, it certainly opened up the options for aftermarket stocks without anybody having to do anything, really.
Yeah, no, it's really nice. I'm really tempted. If I ran a Tikka and a centerfire, I definitely would be getting one. But
you run a Lithgow mainly with your 22, don't you?
Yeah, Lithgow and a CZ, and probably the Lithgow more now. So yeah, Greg's delving into whatever else he can find.
Well, I believe there was a substantial amount of
gadgets.
Thermal related stuff.
Yeah, and some mixed. I know it's probably not going to get out of the US, but there's some mixed thermal IR combined.
Oh, okay. Wow. Very nice.
Well, don't you own ITAR, Greg?
I am International Trade of Arms. No. No, ATM have released a Thor 4 thermal scope.
Is that why
series.
you're so rich?
So that'll be interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know much about them at all, but yeah, send one to the show. I'd love to dribble all over it. Night Optics have also released a thermal. So I have no idea of the features or, the quality of these releases, but obviously more.
But they have been released.
They have been released, and it looks like they have a variety of different resolutions and sensor resolutions, and so they are ranges, if you like. So Night Optics have got one, ATN have released one, and there was one more here somewhere. Yeah, new FLIR Thermosite Pro models. So they've got a range released as well.
Okay.
And they've got a bloody massive objective lens on them. Jesus. But, yeah.
We will have some further follow-up on SHOT with some people who were there. So look out for those episodes coming up soon. Bit of a rundown on all the precision rifle relevant stuff, which will be good. Anything else that stood out for you, Andrew?
I'm trying to spin through for any sort of rangefinder releases. But
there's just
no luck so far.
Yeah, there was that, the Leica binos, but other than that, nothing grabbed my attention.
There's an update to Geoballistics that will let it hook into a Kestrel with Link.
Okay.
So, which is kind of good to see that cross-platform sort of gear.
Yeah.
There as well. So that's kind of cool to see.
Did you guys mention Vortex Optics Strike Eagle scope range?
No, it didn't.
No,
Talks about a pair of new scope.
because they did have
One for each eye.
It's called binoculars.
I'm learning, Andrew.
Yeah, I'll bear with you.
3 to 18 by 44 and 4 to 24 by 50.
Because I think the Strike Eagle, they did have, it was a compact model, wasn't it? It
Yeah.
was the first one. I reckon that was released maybe a year ago. And I think it wasn't at the bottom end of the budget market, but it wasn't, it was designed to be, I think, attainable to people other than Greg.
The average man.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
The man that has to,
I like the disgust he said with that. The average man. Yeah, right. Whatever. It's got no interest.
So, I mean, he did actually stop on it on his phone when he was flicking, though, so give him some credit.
Busy flicking.
He is flicking in the corner there. 4 to 24 by 50 in the Strike Eagle. Relatively cheap price. Okay. Well, we'll have to find out a little bit more about that. Hopefully some of the guys who are at the show can shed some lights on it.
Yeah, well, I think Nick from Ignition Custom is still there, so I think he had a good look at a number of optics over there. So
yeah,
chat to
absolutely.
him when he gets back.
Now we got a couple of guys lined up, which should be really, really good. Speaking of whatever it was, the Geoballistics thing. I found that piece of information out actually from Precision Rifle Media podcast with Kirk. Chatted with the guys from with one of the blokes from Geoballistics. So if you haven't heard that show, that is good, a really good show about where Geoballistics came from. In fact, Greg, I'm going to recommend you listen to that episode.
Okay.
Because have you listened to it?
Which one was it again?
Have you been listening to anything in the last 10 minutes? No, good.
No, I just slightly missed the name you mentioned.
So I reckon probably, Greg, if you can listen to this episode we're recording now, and then also the episode from Precision Rifle Media about Geoballistics.
Yeah, okay.
I think where they sort of originally came from in terms of what they were set up for, I think actually you'd be really interested in some of their options in their software.
No worries, we'll do.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Cool. Well, we put it to our Patreon supporters. A few different options for the show's topic tonight. Are we ready to move into the main sort of chat, or is there anything else, any other business, as they say?
I think we're good.
Mm.
Yeah, but what about the topics?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think we're good for that too.
Okay, good. Just checking. I reckon that's about it. The topic that they selected for us to chat about tonight is reticle choices.
For what?
Shooting.
What type?
Shooting. Guns.
Andrew, always asking questions.
The tough questions.
Yeah.
Asking the tough
I'm
questions.
a thinker.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
But it's a fair question. And,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Are we talking shooting a 22 handgun, or are we talking about shooting a 50 BMG rifle?
Well, generally speaking, I think the indication is in the name of the podcast being the Precision Shooting Podcast. So probably stuff for precision. No, I'm just making this up. Whatever. Does it vary? That's really probably a good question to ask. And that's, I'm guessing what we can take from your comment there is that reticles will really come down to what you're doing with it, and then also a decent amount of personal preference as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perhaps we go through a couple of different styles of reticle, which is really easy to do in a non-visual medium. We haven't thought this through, have we? Good.
Not at all.
So standard reticle that's been around for a long time would be a duplex, I suspect, would be probably most common. I started on a duplex reticle. I bet you guys...
It's probably the most common still, really. You took the average rifle, if you like. It's probably a fairly common choice.
And that's effectively a line up and a line across.
Yep.
And they meet in the middle and they become crosshairs. And that's about it. And you'll get variants on that. You'll get ones that are thicker for a part and then go down to a thinner line where they actually cross over, and ones that are thin for half of it, and ones that are thin all the way to the top and don't have that thicker part at the top, but everything else is slightly thicker. Anyhow, there's huge amounts of variations. Do you guys run any duplex reticles?
Oh, gee, I did for quite a few years, like in my younger years, because that's pretty much all there was back in the gold crown and the silver crown days of the old Tascos and stuff like that, which, that's going back, but not anymore. I Oh no, sorry, I'm a 22. I do.
You do?
Yeah, I was just trying to think. I think I've even gone with a BDC like type reticle even for my air rifles even.
Well, explain that one for us then. A BDC reticle.
Well, I guess it's effectively a simple reticle. I guess a variant of the the duplex type with several holdover points on the elevation crosshair below the center. So generally speaking, it would be a generic. They'll be equating to set amounts of elevation, I guess.
Yep.
And then you'd depending on what you were putting it on, it will determine what range each of those hold points equates to.
Yeah. BDC meaning bullet drop compensator.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, I think a lot of manufacturers do them now. It's not like a lot of companies do with a with an intention of having, okay, this is a 600 yard or this is a 1,000 yard reticle, which is great if your ballistics happen to match up perfectly with the calibration on the reticle. But if it doesn't, it's sort of a little bit less useful.
There's probably a couple of different BDC type reticles. I sort of think there's two levels of them. There's ones which just give you a couple of sort of sporadic hold points down from the centre, perhaps up as well. And then there's ones that attempt to go all out and give you, 200, 300, and they might even put on there 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever distance it is.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I've got, on an air rifle and a 22 as well, I have, basic BDC reticles that they're numbered, from 2 down to 6. And you could say nominally they're 200 yards through to 600 yards, but
not for your air rifle.
Probably not really for a lot of things. But I don't utilise it for that. What I've done is I've shot out to the maximum range that reticle will allow me to hold on, and just recorded. So okay, on line 2 it's 65 metres, on line 3 it's 75, so on and so on.
There's a for air rifle on 22 LR. There's an app called Chairgun that'll calculate those points for you based on
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
You can actually choose one of those. Most of those sorts of reticules are on there. Yeah.
Shooting is more fun though.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an excuse to shoot more.
It's good. And so from there, I guess the other popular one that has been around a long time is the Mildot reticle, which is effectively, it has Mildots along it and dots in there that are spaced every mil, generally above and below and left and right the whole way around. And that, I'm happy to be wrong about this, but I sort of think that Mildot reticle is really where a lot of our current style reticles started from.
Yeah, I think it's probably, if you've got the typical Mildot reticle, as you said, it's full mils. And prior to the rangefinders becoming what they are, the military in particular, I guess, would have probably been the earlier users of the system were using the reticle to actually calculate distance. And again, it's an approximation more than exactly. But yeah, it's a fairly coarse reticle, the Mildot, in that if you've got nothing other than full mil hold points, particularly for wind, I guess, it can be, you'll find yourself holding between points. So I guess it's still a usable reticle, but I don't imagine it would be a big seller.
It's not so commonplace now, is it?
Yeah.
No, it was big in military training right back to Vietnam, wasn't it? Like Vietnam era snipers were all, that was the method. And from as a stepping up from a basic duplex reticle, it was good. Yeah,
but,
I don't know with a lot of the Mildot ones too. Like there's a little bit more detail when you look at it. Like the dots are like, don't quote me because I don't have it in front of me, but the mil ones. Yeah, between centre of dot to centre of dot was 1 mil, and then between the circumference of the circle was like 0.2 or something. And then if you went from, the top of the circle to the bottom of the, so you could it actually had lots of little measurements hidden in. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think the very basic, the first Mildots reticles were not that, they were very basic.
Yeah.
But then, there's companies that have brought out hollow dots, where the actual Mildot is a very tiny dot in the centre with a circle around it, which doesn't block out as much. It's a lot finer reticle. But again, I think, like we'll go into shortly, that kind of reticle is outdated effectively.
Yeah, I think you hit on there that we started seeing variants of Mildots with hollow ones and then elongated ones, and they were all sort of, and then sort of half dots as well. We started to see hash marks, and over that course of time, we now come up with, I don't know what to call it, tactical reticle. I don't know. That's probably a terrible word for it, but the reticles that will give you a whole stack of hash marks, be them mil, MOA, dots, lines, stars, I don't know, but whatever they may be, you'll get this. It'll follow the Duplex line. We have all these indications of holdover marks and such, and they can be used to mill, they can be used to hold over, they can be used for wind, all that sort of gear.
Yeah, and I guess sort of an evolution from the the basic Mildot reticle would be, I guess, a common term to describe it would be a Christmas tree type reticle.
Well, that's sort of the next level of it, isn't it? Is you have all these gaps in this duplex design that we start holding into midair.
Yeah, and I guess, I was thinking about this earlier today, as a sort of a point to discuss. But if you're not dialing everything on your scope, some people dial elevation, hold wind, some people dial everything, some people dial nothing and hold completely on the reticle. Those type of reticles where you effectively have, generally speaking, you would zero at whatever range you want to zero at, in the center of the crosshair, and then from underneath that on the elevation crosshair going down, you've got effectively like the Christmas tree shape that gives you all those hold points. So if you don't want to dial or you don't have time to dial, you can just go, all right, well, I need to hold 7 mils elevation and 2.5 wind, and you can just, there is actually an aiming mark there rather than sort of holding in midair.
Yeah, and hoping you line up on both vertical and horizontal as well.
Yeah. And then obviously most of them have whatever increment markings on the windage crosshair itself, the main one. So say if you were to dial elevation and hold wind, you can obviously hold level on your elevation and then just bring it across left or right to hold on the appropriate mark. So that was probably.
I guess the other thing to mention too is, the early days it was all second focal plane too, so you had to be on a fixed, a certain zoom for that scope, and
for lots of them, yeah.
And
certainly.
I don't know where when first focal plane came on, because I probably only had first focal plane from the last 5 years, I suppose, but that was a bit of a game changer in terms of that information being meaningful across your whole zoom.
I just want to get back into, and we'll come back to this because there's a good point there, but there's probably another style of, or probably a couple of styles of reticles that we see now as well. And you've got your very dedicated target reticles, and these are usually very minimal, where they're very conscious of not covering your target. So it might be a dot, it might be a real line, might even be not a dot, it might be a gap in the crosshair right at the center point. And so there's a whole stack of those real targets, and we suspect we don't know a huge amount about them because we don't do sort of F-class or bench rest and that sort of gear. But I know they're popular and they certainly exist, and no doubt we'll get into the reasons why we don't use them a little bit later on. But a lot of the bench rest guys use a very basic crosshair. I'll use the term duplex, but I think it's not a true duplex in that it's just a very fine line. Windage and elevation crosshair with usually a very fine dot, like an 1/8 of a minute or a 16th of a minute dot in the middle, and that's it. Because for them, it's not so much about putting the projectile exactly where they're aiming in the target. It's all about group size. Yeah,
so as long as it falls within their their target area, it's all about group size. So they want to minimise the amount of reticle that's covering their aiming point effectively.
Yeah.
Very different from if you're, say, setting up a PRS rifle.
And the other reticle, the style that I guess is pretty common is the close quarters combat sort of stuff. The circles with the dot in the middle, or the donuts and bits and pieces. And I'll be honest, I don't know much about them because I don't do that sort of style shooting very often. But they certainly are around, and they're very coarse, very quick, very eye-catching, and that's probably it's one of their real benefits is they draw your eye to the dead center of it very quickly, and you can pull that up and get focused very quickly and let a shot off, which can be very useful. So to get back to what you were talking about with the first focal plane stuff, Greg, from my understanding, first focal plane's been around a long time, quite a long time.
Yeah.
in more recent years, though, we've had the reticles that could actually be really useful in first focal plane, and go back 10 years or so, and probably longer. You'd have a downside of first focal plane being the reticle design was a real challenge.
That's right. Yeah, there was a few challenges, wasn't there, early on?
I've seen some of the reticles say at the low power were almost unusable. It was this tiny little shrinky-dink reticle in the middle of your field of view. And, when you wound it up to maximum power, it was usable, but it wasn't well designed.
Potentially it was too large. It'd cover over your target.
Yeah, I mean,
that was the flip side.
Yeah, and you look at, say, some of these, I guess, for want of a better term, Christmas tree reticles we're talking about. If you were to dial your power right down, you can see the whole tree, if you like. Are still usable. You
still get quite a large. You still get like a duplex with a bit of stuff on it.
That's a in-depth
duplex with stuff?
Technical terminology.
I was hoping you guys would like that.
That's good.
Yeah, that's high tech.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, moving right along.
Moving on.
No, but I mean, I think the reticle designs, particularly of the latest scope releases of the higher end scopes, generally speaking, you can tell there's been a lot of thought and planning put into the reticle. It's not just whack it down and it should be right.
Yeah.
So
there's actually a lot of the scope manufacturers have like guides for all their different designs, and you can go and read. Like I know Bushnell do that, so they have all their different reticle designs, and you can go in there and read about what all the meaningful information is across it. And you think you might have it all worked out, but there's a few extra things in there you didn't quite pick, and it's there. Like you say, a lot of thought goes into them.
And that's where we'll leave it for this episode. Make sure you check out our Facebook page for details on the competition, as well as jumping onto Patreon. It's another way to win those STS targets. And we will be back with part 2 next week. Cheers, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Precision Shooting Podcast. To continue the discussion, check out our Facebook page. And for more information, head to our website, www.precisionshootingpodcast.com.au. This episode was brought to you by STS Steel Targets, premium shooting targets and accessories.